want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Madmen of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
That's right. It's time for that PDA check.
That's right. That's right. Hey, I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Madmen of Masculinity, baby.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
That's
it's all about
right,
you, baby.
That's right. It's all about you. Hey, if you're watching us live, you can type in a comment and we'll put it on. We'll see it. JBK will make it famous. We'll put it right on the screen because we talking about something important today, man. We talking about something important. Hey, man, you think
men and money, man?
You think men like PDA?
I think it depends on the dude, but I think deep down, most men, they like the PDA.
I think men like money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think money and PDA go hand in hand. What you think?
They do. I think they do. But I think the guys are thinking a different PDA. What you think?
Well, I think we should bring somebody in that knows something about this more than we do.
We should. It's the PDA
think,
Meister himself, Mr. Reed Meyer.
Oh, there he is. Booyah. Barrel, barrel, barrel. The one and only Mr. Reed Meyer. How you doing, sir?
Good. Nice to see you, gentlemen. Nice to see you again.
Oh, man, for round 2.
Yeah, we're ready.
Yeah, we brought this man on for the hour-long radio episode, which you can see on YouTube, see the behind the scenes and everything else. And we were talking about what men need to know about money. And then Kirk came up with the PDA thing. And I think we're really going to dig into that because if you didn't watch the first episode, PDA stands for priority. Where'd the D word go? What's the D word?
The D.
Discipline.
He's missing the D.
I'm missing the D. It's the D word. So it's priority, discipline, and accountability.
That's
See, and
right.
of course, I would miss a discipline one. That's one I struggle with.
Well, most of us do. Most of us do for sure. We're talking about money, man, and this is one of the things that we're all about men leveling up. We believe that when men level up, everything around us levels up. When men are better, communities are better, families are better, women are better. I mean, households are better, jobs are better, etc. So we believe in helping men level up. Not just getting on here and complaining about this and complaining about that, but what if we had some empowerment in this thing and in this madmen mafia movement, and we empowered some men. So we think, man, money is important to talk about, man, and I think this is a conversation that most men, need to begin to talk about openly.
Yeah, and this is what Reed does. Reed's with Wealth Wave. He is a financial guru because we can't say the other word. So Reed's your financial guru. And what he really, I'll let him break it down, but he really helps guys with how they manage their money because, gentlemen, we know if you ain't got the funds, they ain't want no scrubs. So
no romance without finance.
There it is.
You know what I'm saying? That's an old song. There's an old song. Hey, Reed, what's your background, man? I mean, how'd you get to this moment in life?
So I had a corporate career and, did, all sorts of things in my background and got tired of being a highly paid guy that always got laid off. And so decided I wanted to go and help people another way. And I got into this industry 15 years ago. Initially for kind of, other reasons, again, just for that kind of independence and all that kind of stuff, but then fell in love with helping people and actually making a difference versus I remember back to those times when I was sitting in a conference room arguing passionately over stuff that 6 months later nobody gave a crap about, and now actually being able to help people individually and kind of help them on their journey and really teach them some of the stuff that they should have learned in schools, but schools don't teach them, and most of their parents didn't know either, so they couldn't teach them, and so everybody's sort of searching through the dark and kind of feeling their way through life in the school of hard knocks and all those kind of things, trial and error. And, if we can just help some people avoid some of those mistakes along the way and get focused in the right direction, I love making a difference for folks. And so that's kind of how I got here. I've been here kind of 15 years and, kind of chugging along. So.
Nice. Well, and we already kind of dropped the bomb. We talked about PDA. So let's have you kind of break that down because I think that's what you said, what you really help guys with initially, because most of us, like you said, we don't have the education, we don't even have shop class anymore. And they definitely don't teach us about finances and money and stuff in school. So you got to learn that on your own. And so that's kind of what you help guys with. So kind of break that down about how you kind of help guys into a little more financial literacy.
Yeah, and I think, as we talked a little bit about before, right, is I think, guys especially, right, they have this, they ego and all that kind of stuff around not wanting to be wrong and or be embarrassed by how little they know or how little they have, right? So all of those things I think drive, and then you talked about at the top that people don't talk about money, right? So that's what we're here talking about, because like if more people talked about it and it was out there and people could have conversations with each other and friends and all that kind of stuff versus not being able to talk about it would make a huge difference, right? So, in terms of having men, specifically, you get into that kind of ego thing where it's like, okay, well, I should know more, and I kind of use the example of like barbecuing, right? Just because I'm male, I should know how to barbecue, but my dad didn't really know how to teach me, so it's again learning that through trial and error as well, right? So same sort of stuff as all those things that we should know, but we don't. Then we kind of just kind of fake it till you make it, and that doesn't work very much in the money realm. But the whole PDA thing, I thought it was a great kind of way to sort of tee it up. And one of the key things around we talked about sort of budget. It's kind of like diet, right? You can have a really great diet and you can have a really crappy diet. Budget, you can have a really budget's just where you spend your money, right? It's knowledge and awareness of where your money's going, right? And money flows through us and flows through our accounts, and some people have a really good handle on that, and they know that their Netflix bill goes out on the 17th of the month unless they're on mom's plan, or they or another people sort of have this vague inclination of I'm living paycheck to paycheck, or I should have some money left over. But a lot of people, you ask them, they're like, I should have money in my savings, but I don't. So all of that stuff's around clarity, right? And which comes down, because then you can make conscious, it's getting people to move from an unconscious just spending. We talked a little bit about the it's just bad words last time, but priorities are really around having knowledge about where stuff's going so that you can make prioritize decisions about where you want to spend your money, right? We do it around where do I want to spend my time? Do I want to go here? Do I want to go there? Do I want to spend it working, or do I want to spend it, having fun? But rarely we just sort of think about where my budget is and where I'm spending money. Am I doing that consciously and sort of doing that sort of priorities, right? Am I clear on where I want to go? And then how does my future factor into those priorities? So that's the P, is priorities, right? And then discipline is, this is a long game. This isn't a get rich quick kind of thing. We talked about everything, compound interest, Rule 72 last time, and kind of covered that, but it's around doing stuff a little bit, or a lot, or whatever you can do over time is what makes the difference, right? The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, because then you'd have this nice big old tree that provides lots of shade, etc. The next best time is today, and then you just gotta keep going along and doing it. So that was the discipline, is this is a long game, repeated action over time. And then we talked about kind of the A, accountability, right? Which is, it's always easy to kind of change your priorities and all that, but sometimes if you have sort of an outside voice that's not so emotional about your money, right? We all are. If we lose money or we do make a bad decision, but if you have sort of an outside voice that is it could be a spouse or whomever, right? It's sort of there's lots of different people to be accountable to, but having that discipline and then being accountable to somebody so that you're not suddenly like, well, I'm gonna go to this or do that, or I'm not going to sort of put it away this month, and then you sort of fall out of the habit. And so it's having that outside voice that can kind of do the check-in every once in a while to just kind of say, hey, there's no right, wrong, good or bad. You're just making decisions. And are you making decisions that are aligned with your priorities, right? So you got your priorities, and then you're making decisions, and are those matching, right? Are they congruent? Or are they, completely off base, right?
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point, because the best athletes in the world, they have coaches. The best people in the world, the most successful people in the world have coaches. And it's always funny how guys will go, oh, I'll have a coach for golf, I'll have a coach for this sport, I might even have a business coach. But how many of them fall off on the financial coach? Because like you said, they're emotional about their money, they don't want to be wrong about it. So having a coach to go, hey, it's not my money, I'm not as emotional about it, I can be more detached and help you be more prioritized with your budget and your spending. Because I mean, budget, it sounds like a bad word. I know for me, for many years, it was like, budget, I mean, I got it, what, spreadsheets,
just
what?
like, just like diet means it, people connotate it to like it means restriction, right? Like if I'm going to go on a diet, it means I'm going to eat rice crackers for like 2 months, and you're like, and like 2 weeks in, you're like, okay, I'm not eating another goddamn rice cracker, right? So for most people, budget means not spending or whatever. Budget is just awareness of where your money's going. So absolutely right. But
I think that's a great breakdown too, because people do associate budget with restriction. So looking at budget as, no, this is just what you have a budget. You may be completely unconscious of your budget. You may not know what your budget is because you haven't actually looked at it, but a budget is just what is. Like, this is where your money goes. And I think you brought it up before, but like, kind of your hierarchy of values. You know what you value, because if you look at your budget and actually like write it down, you know where you spend your money, and then you can kind of go, oh, maybe I shouldn't value Starbucks so much, or movies so much, or new clothes so much. Because I mean, we all have a budget, but we got to stop looking at it as a bad thing. Go look at it like, this is what is. And if I don't know what is, if I don't know what my point A is, then how am I going to get to point B, especially financially?
Yep, it's just that awareness, right?
I mean, first of all, I mean, you do this for a living, right? I mean, you're not some chump just kind of hanging out, right, in somebody's basement. Like,
yeah, we just picked him up off the side. We picked him up at Home Depot to do this.
Like, this is what you do, man. And the picture I get in my mind is, somebody wants to go into the gym, right? They want to work out. You talk about, maybe we have a physical PDA in terms of your health, right? And you want to go to the gym, you want to go work out. Well, it may not be smart to just go in the gym and start yanking up weights, because you could be lifting weights and be doing it all wrong in terms of form, in terms of what you're trying to accomplish, and all those kinds of things. And you could actually be doing more damage to yourself, even though you're in the gym, and even though you're working out, even though you're lifting weight, even though you're getting swole, you could be actually doing things the wrong way. And so to have like a personal trainer in the gym, just kind of say, hey, what are you trying to accomplish? Okay, and then here's some exercises that you want to do. Here's how you do it, the reps. Here's the form, the correct form to do it. This method versus that method, and all this other kind of stuff. And so, to me, I mean, I picture, this is what having a conversation with somebody like you is all about.
Yeah, I think it's a great analogy, right? Because people, you can be doing, you can try to be doing the reps or the workout for the guy next to you, but he's working on different goals, right? Like, and or he's got other health issues that he's got to sort of work around, and they're not your issues. So everybody's got, while they can be similar, you got different priorities and you got different budget and different money you can do. So like, what the workout that you're doing is going to be different, right? The other great thing about your analogy, well, two things, right? One is, all the gyms, like January 1st, everybody's like, okay, here's my goals for the year, right? And 3 weeks, like the gyms are packed the first 2 or 3 weeks of January, and then 4 weeks in, crickets, right? Like there's nobody there. They forgot what their goals are, and that's where the discipline kind of comes in, right? And so we got the goals. And the other thing is that you may not see result. The other thing about going to the gym is when you start working out, right, you may not lose weight. You may not see a lot of muscle development in the first 6 months, right? So some of the stuff that we do, there's some sort of quick things that we can do or adjustments, or sometimes those can, see a pretty big impact. But a lot of the stuff we do is that discipline over time stuff. It's the going to gym, 3-4 times a week. It's not the, well, I went once and woo, problem solved. So I think the gym analogy is an excellent one in terms of kind of how, working with, whether the advisor or even on your own, right, is what it's all about. It's that sort of discipline over time, making sure that you're doing the right workout, and have somebody there to keep you honest, right?
Well, and that's why we always hire coaches, not because they tell us what to do necessarily, but because they hold us accountable to what we say we want. And I think somebody probably in your position, you correct me if I'm wrong, you can probably help somebody adjust their budget, adjust their spending to actually what they want. Because I think for most of us, we don't know what we don't know, and then we're living paycheck to paycheck. It's like not realizing where all the money is going, and we're probably too afraid to actually look at it and create a budget to go, oh, I'm spending way too much money on entertainment, or I'm spending way too much money on this, or maybe I should get a used car versus a new car, things like that. So having somebody like you come in to go, hey, here's where you're at, and now you're telling me this is where you want to go. I want to support you getting there, but you'll need some accountability, because if I say this is how you get there, then you say okay, and then don't do it, there's no discipline. And I think discipline really comes through accountability. It's much easier to be a man and have discipline when somebody's holding you accountable to that, what you say you want.
Yeah, and I'll give you a perfect example of that exact conversation. So I was working with a client. It was, I got introduced to somebody, and he was managing a restaurant or working in the restaurant industry, right? Which is usually cash based. Like, okay, I got cash in my hand, burning a hole in my pocket, right? Kind of stuff, and making pretty good money. I think he was living at his mom's basement or something like that. I don't know, but So he should have had, based on kind of his expenses, he should have had, a decent chunk of change, probably $400 or $500 left over at the end of the month, but he had zero in his savings. Okay. So he's having fun. He's enjoying life. Great. But instead his goals were like, okay, I want to buy a house. He wanted to get out of debt, right? So he had some credit card debt that he needed to get out of. And he wanted to buy a house like within 3 to 5 years. Okay, great. Those were sort of his top things. And so I just asked him, he's like, okay, so those are your goals. That's what you're telling me. What are you doing right now to work towards either of those goals, right? And it's a pretty simple question, right? Again, not rocket surgery, but clearly his mind was just like, okay, yeah, I'm just going through life and just doing that stuff and having fun and going through the motions of life, but I'd never really sort of set aside what is it going to take to doing those priorities, or am I putting those aside first rather than going to concerts or having fun or whatever. And so it was exactly that, right? It was just asking the question to have that connect in his brain around, right, I say I want these things, but I'm actually not taking any action to actually move towards them, right?
Mm-hmm. So let's do a quick recap. I mean, well, first of all, I think when it comes to money, you're either the dog or the tail, right? And so, you make the choice of which one you want to be, right? I mean, most of us, I mean, if you have a job, you have income, and then you have outgo. And so you either tell it where to go or it tells you where to go. And so, like I said, you're either the dog or the tail. So Madmen of Masculinity, our short form here tonight. We're not going to be on here too long, but we're talking about that money. We're talking about the PDA with the one and only Mr. Reed Meyer. And man, I think even if you're a single guy, especially if you're a single guy, man, you need to get your hands around your money. You need to get a grip on your financial situation, your financial circumstance. And I would imagine maybe it's easier when it's just you. But I think especially if you have plans on like being in the dating world and all these other kind of things, you want to get into a relationship, at some point, man, you're going to have that conversation at some point with somebody that you want to bring into your life. And man, what a great opportunity while you're single to get your poop in a group, man, and get your money together, man, get your bills right and get ready to have those conversations, man, get in the best position possible for you meet that person. And, by ball, you're not, you're confident to have all that stuff in line.
Yeah, there's something we talk about so much when it comes to relationships, is communication is so key, and having those hard conversations. I think having a specialist who can help you have those hard conversations, especially when it comes around money. Intimacy is all about having hard conversations and allowing somebody to see you, all of you. And sometimes it's hard to do just the two of you. So maybe having somebody like Reed come in and just help you with the budget, help you with your priorities, especially because, like Kirk said, if you're coming in single as a single dude and you're doing okay on your own, now you want to add a lady into that and then think about family and legacy and things like that. You want to have a coach. You want to have somebody to say, okay, well, where do you want to go? Here's how you get there. And sometimes it's easier to have an intermediary like Reed come in and go, okay, here's how you get there. I'm not emotionally involved, even though you two are. And here's how I can dispassionately help you create a plan to get to where you want to go. And I'm sure you probably had these discussions, right, Reed, where you kind of help people out in that way.
Yeah, I think you on one of your other podcasts, you just sort of talk about staying in your lane and kind of, doing that. And so like usually people that are super money responsible, right, want to be with people that are, reasonably, like if they're with somebody that's completely a money disaster, again, they're not staying in their lane, right? So, and it's definitely easier to get your own. I mean, it's not necessarily easy, right? It takes discipline and all that kind of stuff we talked about, right? But organizing yourself in just one person's priorities, it's great. But when you start to merge those, and suddenly you have two people's priorities and two people's backgrounds, right? Because some people may have grown up in a less wealthy household or somebody else, or they grew up with spenders, or somebody's a saver, right? Everybody has a different sort of money blueprint in their backgrounds, and then you suddenly are merging those spending habits and those prioritization stuff, and you've got to be on the same page. We all know that's hard enough in a relationship anyway, just in terms of what you like and what you don't like. But then you sort of merge in that emotional side of money in there. It's definitely easier to get your stuff if you get there. The other piece that it does is if you start early, right? The trick is starting early is you have so many more options later that if you then suddenly want to if you don't have anything saved, then it's really hard to start to save when you're together to sort of suddenly say, all right, I want to buy a house. But if you started saving 5 years ago or 10 years ago, then if you want to go buy the house, then it's easy, right? So the whole getting your act together early it just gives you more options, right? More options and freedom down the road.
Does somebody have to have a whole lot of money to sit down and talk with you?
So it's interesting. Our industry is evolves over time, but our industry has actually been shrinking because a lot of people have minimums around what they want to talk to you about. It used to be $100,000 of investable assets. Some people now, a lot of folks are $250,000 and up. Some people are like, well, $1 million or $10 million, which I think is silly because so many of the other people, right, that leaves out 96% of the population, which is nuts, right? So we don't have minimums, right? I'm happy to sit down and talk with somebody about, cash flow, what's coming in, what's going out, right? And just sort of getting that squared away, having the importance of having an emergency fund, right? The helping people get out of debt. We've got solutions that'll even help people sort of minimize their student loan debt, get the maximum sort of forgiven. Proper protections. So this is things, people think their home or their car is their biggest asset, but it's actually your ability to make money. So things like life insurance and long-term care and disability, right? Investments can handle all sorts of that. And that's even like estate planning. I think one of the reasons people don't get there, right, is, planning your financial future falls into that important but not urgent category, right? Probably a lot of the stuff that you guys talk about is like, okay, I really got to do this, but, it's not going to kill me to do it tomorrow. Right. Same with like estate planning or some of those kind of things, right? Is like, well, it's really important, but waiting till tomorrow won't matter. So it's always, again, just down the road, right? That important but not urgent stuff.
Yeah. So if somebody so we give the guys kind of a heads up and a blueprint. Like, so if somebody's decided, okay, I need to pull the trigger, I need to get a financial coach, I need somebody like Reed to come into my life and help me prioritize and get some discipline and accountability, what can they expect when they come to talk to you? Like, what would they need and what can they kind of expect from working with you?
Yeah. So, typically we do, sit down at least twice, right? The first conversation is really just around me asking a ton of questions, right? So it's you hopefully having kind of your budget or outline budget. If you can't do that, we'll help you sort of give you some homework and tell you how to do that, right? But it's policies and investments and all those kind of money things that you want to talk about. But a lot of it's around the P, right? It's priorities. What do you? It's figuring out where you are now, right? So it's the kind of point A step, but it's figuring out your priorities about getting clear on where you want to go. Is it buying a house? Is it having kids or sending kids to college, or is it retirement, or where do those things match up? And what is that list of stuff? So the first conversation is really just a conversation. And hopefully you've spent some time thinking about those things. A lot of people, we've sort of lost the little dream, we've lost dreams, right? We used to dream when we were a kid. And then now, unfortunately, we're so in the rigmarole that we've sort of forgot about that. So some questions, people are like, I just want to kind of maintain life. And it's a little sad, but, hopefully people want to, aspire to something else, but whatever you do you, right? Whatever those are. So the first conversation is really about gathering that information. I go away and do my homework, put in a lot of time to kind of come up with those things. And then we have a second conversation around, hey, what's it going to take to get to retirement, right? Because everybody should have that on the radar screen. We'll talk about other stuff too, but we always talk about that one around, hey, if you want to maintain your style of living in the future, here's how much it's going to take per month. And then here are some ways to avoid taxes and do all that other kind of stuff. And then we'll talk through some other recommendations about the priorities. And if you love them, great. If you don't, great. I always sort of do that at sort of no cost for my folks. And I get paid by the product providers if somebody wants to invest or do something. So I don't work for free, but you'll never write me a check. So usually that's those two appointments. And then if somebody needs more to kind of feel comfortable or to talk about a specific solution, happy to do those too. But usually it's the bulk of it is around you understanding where you are and where you want to go. And then we're going to sort of define that sort of financial GPS of kind of helping you kind of get there. And it's always step one, right? So like, I've never met with somebody who's like, okay, I'll take one of each and they're all ready to go. Usually it's, all right, hey, we got to take a little step here. We got to work on these couple of things for a few months, and then we got to work on something else, and we'll put this other thing in place. It's a journey, right? So for me, it's one of the things that I love is that kind of, lifetime relationship with most of my clients, and some I do and some I don't or whatever, but it's really around, hey, we're in this for the long haul together, and it's not like you go to the gym once or twice and you're done, right? it's that providing that accountability and helping you with the discipline.
How about you give us go ahead and toot your own horn and give us some of your success stories, some of the people you've worked with that you maybe can use as an example of like why it's a good idea to work with you to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I've got a bunch of stuff with people that have put some stuff in place where like in terms of working on emergency funds and putting some savings where they could get to it and not have to wait for retirement, where suddenly they could pull money out of certain investments without any penalty, right? So like they were gonna redo their basement. They're like, I'm gonna take it out of my 401k. I'm like, okay, don't do that. Like, there's other reasons you want to do that. So I'm like, you've got this other money over here that we've been saving in this bucket. Pull it out of there. So they did. Started paying it back and putting it back in there after they kind of financed their remodel of the basement. Then suddenly, he unfortunately got laid off, and he was like, freaking out. He had a mortgage and kids and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm like, well, you can pull money out of this other bucket, right? And so because he'd done the work and sort of put some stuff and we did some planning, he was able to live off of that for 2 or 3 months until he got employed. Then he, started putting that back in and going along. And then he got a business opportunity somewhere else that he wanted to sort of, go the entrepreneurial route. And it's like, I need some cash. I'm like, all right, here you go. Here's the bucket, right? So with some planning and some stuff, you can kind of create, options for folks. So that's, a pretty good success story in my mind. I've got another gal who unfortunately her second parent passed away, and she got she got a decent sized inheritance. I worked both with her and her brother, and we figured out, how do you avoid those inheritance taxes, right? Most people get the money and they cash the check, and then they're like, okay, and then they're like, oops, I shouldn't have done that, right? And so we worked on sort of a plan on sort of like, well, how do you avoid paying taxes on like the dad's IRA all at once and still putting a lot of money away and allowing them to return. She's going to be able to retire at age 50, but like if she just got a boatload of money and spent a bunch of money on this and that because they didn't have a plan, then they wouldn't be able to get there, right? I'm like, well, you inherited this amount of money. It seems like a lot of money, but like if we look at these priorities, and we carved out some money for them to have some fun and do some other stuff, but really sort of putting a plan, was it really going to allow them to retire early because they, again, were clear on their priorities and where they were going to go. Right? So,
see, Kirk, you could be retired by now.
I could be retired by now, man. So this is not an infomercial. I think the whole point is and I hope everybody gets the whole point is we need to have these conversations, and ideally, have these conversations with somebody that has experience and that can help us and guide us. But at the core of this whole topic today is the fact that we need to begin to have these conversations. We didn't grow up with these conversations. Most of us didn't. Most of us didn't grow up with, I like to say most men didn't grow up around gray-haired men that we had tough conversations with. And so, so now in the middle stages of life, we need to kind of learn some stuff that we probably wish we would have known 20 years ago, but in any case, the whole point is there's so many things that we need to have these conversations about that we don't in our culture. And it can be almost taboo to have these conversations, but when you can find somebody that's trustable, and I would imagine, Reed, you're not going to freak out and, judge anybody or whatever if their situation is all jacked up. I believe your heart is to help people get from where they are to where they want to be. So, I mean, I think the whole crux of all this as we begin to wind down here on this episode is the fact that we need to have these conversations with people around us or professionals that can help us get from where we are to where we want to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. Like, I've met, I think we talked about this a little bit last time. I met with dual income couples making like $250,000 a year, and they were doing payday loans. And it was in their house. They'd sold most of their furniture. It was very interesting kind of appointment, right? And then I met with single moms making only $1,500 a month, but they were saving $100 a month. And so, I always sort of give those as examples. Is like most people don't want to have the conversation because they're embarrassed by how little they know or how little they have. Like, you got to start the conversation. So absolutely right. Like, find a friend, just like, hey, I want to, get on track, right? Find a professional that'll sit down with you, right? And we talked a little bit last time about credentials and stuff like that, but find somebody that knows what they're doing and make sure that you, kind of ask the right questions. You can check out the other podcast and get those kind of questions to ask, but find somebody that'll sit down with you, and you shouldn't have to pay for that, for kind of getting on track. There's lots of resources out there. Financial literacy is kind of in vogue now, even though I think a lot of it's pretty surface level kind of stuff, and it's kind of generic on purpose. But there's tons of resources out there that are, free that you shouldn't have to pay for. So absolutely, just start having a conversation and wanting to get there.
Yeah, men, remember, gotta have the money, because the ladies want a man with money. And once again, guys, you're probably doing better than you think you're doing, but you just don't know what you're doing. So get a professional, get a budget, and prioritize your spending, prioritize your money, and you probably will end up a whole lot happier in the long run. You just need a little bit of discipline and need somebody to hold you accountable. And you can make yourself that much more appealing and that much better as a man just by a little shift. You just need somebody to help you shift.
Yeah.
Hey, man, shift.
So, Reed, you already said that nobody's going to have to write you a check to sit down and have this conversation, right? So, I mean, I'm pretty sure that's what you said, unless I had a bad internet connection. And so that, I mean, first of all, I think that's pretty dope. But what would be really dope is to find out how people can get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you. I mean, what's the easiest, fastest, best way for somebody to say, "Hey, Reed, help me figure out where I am"?
Yeah, so I've got Reed, REED -Meyer MEYER.com takes you to like my How Many Work site. There's some good education on there, some financial literacy quiz. A third of American adults are financially illiterate, so you can go take your quiz there, and it has links there to my calendar and my contact information. So that's probably the easiest way. Reed-Meyer.com.
Boom.
Right on. Men, get your money straight. And then ladies, when you get into couples, make sure you have the conversations, have the hard conversations, maybe get somebody like Reed to help you have those conversations. Because I guarantee you, with a little bit of shift, you probably get your money a whole lot more righter.
Yeah. Ladies, if you're out there dating and you meet a guy, for the first sit down coffee or whatever date, ask him if they know Reed. Have you sat down and talked to Reed Meyer? And if the guy says no, then bounce. if the guy says he hasn't had the money conversation with Reed, then you in trouble. So you need to get up out of there. That's your first red flag that you need to avoid. This guy don't know where his money's at. So that's a great first question for a first date. Do you know Reed Meyer? And let that be the answer of whether or not you sit there for another minute or two.
They're like, hey, how do you feel about PDA? Right? That's the other question. Right?
PDA, baby.
How do you feel about PDA? And see what the answer.
Reed, it's pretty dope, man. We want to thank you, man. We got so many conversations that we could have in the future, man, about different topics in the financial literacy and the money realm and all that kind of stuff, man. We look forward to having you be a regular, man. That'd be great.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the conversation. It's you guys are great, and you're helping people again. Just have those conversations, right? Which is what it's all about. So appreciate you guys. And
just remember, men, Madman Mafia is here for you. Remember, you don't know what you don't know, and that's okay. We're here for you. And until next time, Madman
out.